Okay, so the next way that we want to look at approaching kind of this reparenting work, and again, this is complementary. It's not either
Mhm.
or.
Right.
Okay? There's no right or wrong, right? It really is kind of needing all of these different approaches. But this is what I love when clients and people can kind of get to this place, because it is where kind of like the re-excitement of life comes back, right? It's being able, we talk a lot about like living from your real self,
Yeah.
we talk about like feeding your soul, and that is when our psyche and our spirits are just happiest, like when it just feels expansive and life is positive,
They're
even when,
most alive.
yeah, life can be hard,
Yeah.
but as long as you've got kind of yourself at the helm, right? Loving, cherishing, embracing, listening to yourself and supporting, then life can have all the possibilities in the world. And most of the time, for so many different reasons, we don't get that the first time around, right? Parenting is very imperfect in the best scenario. And so now as an adult, we are able to really kind of stop and focus our attention at really supporting ourselves vis-a-vis the inner child or the internal family, okay? If you take the time and the positive, loving intentionality to do
Yep.
that, okay? So once you have become relatively familiar with your little girl or your little boy, okay, that's going to be from doing some of those exercises that we've talked about, kind of stopping, um, focusing your intention internally, asking your psyche to bring up an image of the exact child part that you need to connect with, okay? And then in your mind's eye, being able to focus on that child and then doing some dialoguing with that child, okay? So again, review the recovery hacks in the Mission Monday, right? To me, the most powerful way to really solidify this process and get to know those child parts is to do it, number one, through the imagery, okay, and then through the dialoguing, because the imagery is going to tap into the truth of your psyche, okay? It's not going to be a thought process that then conjure something up. That's going to be from your conscious, intentional mind, as opposed to that subconscious mind driving it. And then when we do the dialoguing back and forth, that is a way to say, I'm going to ensure that I'm not answering for my child, okay? Because a lot of times what we do is, okay, I'm thinking about this child part, and oh yeah, I think this child needs this, okay? So you're answering that from your adult intellectual part, okay? And we're only going to get so far that way. We want to tap into the subconscious child energy, ask the child the question, look at her or him in the image, and literally see that child talk to you. And then you're going to write down what that child has said. So there's a delineation between the adult part and the child part, and you're going to be able to see it on paper. Okay, so I'm going to do a little bit of that exercise in a minute so that you can see it. Okay. But when we talk about proactive, okay, this is the concept of, hey, oh, I have goosebumps. There's this child that has been either neglected or maybe abused or maybe forgotten, okay, that is now coming into your life, okay, into your household, like you are like a foster parent to this child, okay? So this child is going to have some adjustment, right? They're going to bring in some of their earlier history and insecurities and apprehensions. And it's your job to step in and parent in a consistent, loving, and supportive way that allows that child to feel cherished and to adjust and then to grow and thrive, okay, for the remainder of their history, okay? So if a child comes and lives with you as a foster parent, are you going to say, hey, that's great, I learned about you in Dr. Julie's office on Thursday, and I'm going to like not check in with you, you know, for the next 2 weeks until Dr. Julie brings it up and makes me do an exercise, right? That would be awful. That would make that child feel neglected. Okay. So instead, what would you do? You would probably check in with that child on a regular basis. How are you feeling? You know, what are you needing? And most importantly, you would want to get to know that child. Like, what are their likes? What are their interests? What's going to make them smile? Okay. What do they need if they feel alone or scared? How can they be nurtured by you? Okay. So what this means is that you've got to step in as a deliberate parent and say, I'm now aware of this child that is in need of some healthy, loving, supportive embracement. I'm now responsible for that. So I'm going to check in on a regular basis and get to know this child. And then I'm going to learn about them and I'm going to follow through on what's important to them. Okay. So what does this look like? Well, it is Saturday morning. Okay. And you have a day set aside and you could do all of your adult things. You can do your paperwork, you can do your laundry, you can clean your house, right? But you also now have this child part that is living with you. And so what you can do is you can decide, I am going to stop and I am going to check in with that child part. I'm going to see how they're doing. And I'm going to ask them how they want to spend the day. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to take this pad of paper. Dr. Ashley's like laughing.
I am not laughing.
We are going to take our crayons. Okay? And what we're going to do is we are going to start out by closing your eyes, review the mission Monday, doing some deep breaths in, deep breaths out, right? Clearing it, getting all of the external noise of all of the other stuff going on. And you're going to focus in and ask that child, please come up so I can get a sense of you today and what it is that you need. Okay. Again, this is very simplified. All right. I'm doing this very quickly. But that child part's going to come up. And then you're going to write in your adult dominant hand. Okay. Let's see if I can do this. Can you see that, Dr. Ashley?
Yep.
Okay. So then you're going to write, okay, how are you doing? Okay. You're going to go back in through the image. You're going to picture the child. And then they're going to write with their non-dominant, I'm lonely. Eeks. Okay. So adult part feels bad, right? I just want to go away from this. I want to stop. I don't want to do this work anymore. This is silly. If we do that, that child part's going to be left alone. Okay? So we're going to overcome our own avoidant tendencies or desire to run away. And we're going to ask an important question so that we learn. What's making you feel lonely? Okay, we're always going to go back to their words, okay, because we don't want to assume and use our own words. We want to use theirs. And then you're going to hold your breath because you don't know what they're going to say. You're going to be scared to death that you've done something wrong, okay? You're going to go back through the image. You work all the time.
Mm.
Okay? All right. So we are going to keep going. Again, I'm going to be brave. How does that make you feel? Now I know that they were lonely, but I'm going to go deeper. Okay? I want to know a little bit more how my behavior is affecting the child. Go in through the image. Unimportant. Okay? All right. So we're going to keep going with this. Oops. I'm not going to take all the time to do the writing, but I'm going to give you a process and then we're going to go in. So then what you want to say is, what can I do to help you to feel important? Okay. You're going to go into the image, and then maybe the child says, you know, I want to play. Okay. And then you can deepen it again. Why is that important? You know, because then I feel like you want to be with me. Okay. So what you're doing is you're getting a sense of what that child needs. I need to feel important. I need to play. And what play means is that you want to be with me. Okay. And then you need to keep going. Okay. What would you like to do today? Okay. I want to dance. Okay. And the adult says, dance? We can't dance. Where are we going to dance? Da, 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 da. Okay. But instead of coming up with negatives, we're going to come up with a positive. We're going to say, why is that important to you? Okay. Because I want to laugh, because I want to have fun, because I want to be goofy. Okay. I don't get to be goofy enough. Okay. Or because I want to have fun with you. Will you dance with me? Okay. And then guess what? What do you think you're going to do that afternoon? Okay.
Better not be work.
What you're going to do is you're going to turn on some music. Ideally, you're going to ask your child, what music do you want to play with or listen to? Okay. And that child might pick out a song, then you're going to pick out a song. Okay. And then you're going to dance and you're going to imagine that child dancing with you and or you dancing with that child. Okay. And when you do this, I want you to see how that feels inside. And we're going to keep the child part separate from the adult part. Okay. We're not doing this in history. We're doing this in the here and now. You are paying attention to the child. You're asking what the child wants, needs, feels. You are stepping in and you're following through, not because dancing per se is important, but because responding to that part is important. And for whatever reason, that part needs to feel those things, fun, play, they need to interact. That's developmentally, internally what they need. And it's your job as that foster parent to deliver that. Okay? Okay. So this is a very kind of simplified way of working with this, right? Once we get the basics, we are consistent with the child. We are meeting basic needs of connection, okay? Importance, self-value, right? Then we get to start kind of asking other things like, what interests do you have? What kind of things would you like to read? What kinds of friends would you like to play with, right? And what ends up happening is that real self starts to unfold, okay? If we ask and we don't question and we step in and support, okay, it is going to be exactly what those parts needed that they did not get, okay? And when we talk about feeling alone and not important and silly, and this interest is ridiculous. Who has that? Okay. These are the things that are going to start to change. Okay. Because you are the one that's responding to yourself in a way that is going to be true and authentic to yourself. And guess what? When we do that, it brings happiness. Okay. It brings self-worth. It fills up emptiness. And when we fill up emptiness, we don't have to fill it up with food.
You know,
Okay.
the word that comes to mind for me of how it feels cozy.
Yeah. Tell me more.
Yeah, I can reflect on my own experiences of, you know, when I learned how to connect in this way, and it's this cozy, like warm and fuzzy feeling inside, like you're not alone because you're really not, you know, but it is like this, I don't know, cozy is just the word that comes to mind for how I've experienced that.
It's great. And for me, it's similar because I get that same kind of feeling. I describe it as like this warm, like kind of like I'm like wrapped up in like a hug that feels
Yeah.
warm and good. And what I say is that that must have been what it just felt like to be loved, like the first time around.
Mhm.
Like, you know, like when you feel really just loved and it just feels
Mhm.
good.
Mhm.
And this is the beautiful thing. Like, this is the exciting thing, that you can get this within your intrapersonal relationship with yourself in the here and now. Okay. And this ends up trickling up to the adult.
Mhm.
Okay. So, in going in and developmentally giving ourselves what we need emotionally, because there is a psychological unfolding of self. And when we do that, it gives us a sense of self-worth, wholeness, being loved, security. Okay. Like, it feels good. And by the way, disorder cannot occur then, right? It just doesn't. And then the adult starts feeling that way. It's like this natural healing progression.
Mhm.
Okay. The adult then feels worthwhile.
Right.
Okay? The
And
adult feels
confident, joyful.
whole and not alone and loved and warm, right? And happy.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
This is that healing
Mhm.
work. And for people who have not had this the first time around, probably you're listening to these words, and I hope that you trust Dr. Ashley and I by now, right? But otherwise you would say, I don't trust this. This is foreign. Like, I've never felt this way. Like, I cannot imagine that I could ever feel this way,
Right.
right? But you can.
Right. I think too often people have early life experiences where they don't feel factored in. They
Right.
don't feel a part of, you know, whether it's the family system or, you know, the larger system, whatever it might be, but they don't feel factored in and included and a part of. And, you know, unfortunately, that's what gets kind of created within. But coming into this work, it's like you are discovering the recovery that happens when you factor yourself in, when you give that proactive space to the child self by saying, what do you want today? And then by also having that reactive space of, I see that something's going on. Let's pause and let me sit down and figure this out with you. Right? It's like this child self starts to be elevated into a space in your own life where he or she is important, where he or she matters. And that is new for a lot of people.
Where he or she is seen. Okay. Seen, right? In that word, it's like your emotions are seen, your value is seen, your needs are seen, right? Like, your person is seen. And how many times do we talk about growing up in like a narcissistic family system where, like, your needs are not seen? Okay. Or an alcoholic system, or parents are depressed, or maybe a parent passes away, or maybe there's just a complete misattunement, you know,
Mhm.
plenty of love, but a
Right,
misattunement, and you're
right.
just not seen. Or maybe you don't let yourself be seen, right? Maybe
Mhm.
there's something that happens and you go underground within yourself, right? So there's all sorts of different reasons. And the beautiful thing is,
Mhm.
it doesn't matter. What matters, I mean, we have to clean it out, but what matters is that this adult in this new foster parenting role,
Mhm.
right, sees this child in the here and now,
Mhm.
which then will help any and all of those emotional deficiencies so that you will feel this wholeness and this love and this coziness and this warmth and this happiness and this joy like you never thought that you could.
Mhm. Yeah, it is possible to repair. It is possible to heal. And that is what we mean by full recovery.
Right.
You truly, truly can recover yourself and heal yourself regardless of where you've come from. If you were here today listening to this, you are absolutely 100% able to heal.